What is going on, guys? It is El Trader Goof coming at you again with another weekly watch list. Just a couple names that I'll be looking at coming into the upcoming week. And as always, disclaimer: I'm not a professional, not any sort of a financial advisor or anything like that. So always do your own DD. These are just going to be ideas. Always do, like I mentioned, your own DD, do your due diligence. So with that being said, guys, we're just gonna go ahead and jump right into a couple names that I will be looking at going into this week, and one of them is going to, of course, be um, Pew. As we all know here, PEW is going to be the ticker, and it's going to be roughly a blank check company, right? One thing that caught my attention was Donald Trump Jr. is now become partnership with this company, if you would say. So with that being said, so a little thing about this company is that they are main focus is a mobile online firearm retailer, right? So with that being said, their whole idea is basically trying to defend the Second Amendment with the company being behind it, right? So that's their whole idea with them being or attempting to be a mobile focused online firearm retailer um, for roughly millennials and Gen Z, which are now becoming the future of firearms, right? So, of course, with that being said, 5 years, U.S. firearms, have typically gone up over the past years from 2019 up to 2024, up roughly 48%. So, um, this is something that I'm looking at more of a long-term hold, roughly. I do believe that down the road that this company can become something as we've seen online shopping become much more a thing for people, right? A lot of people have preferred to shop online. So imagine that now with this company coming into online retail for guns and etc. It can be a very huge thing. If you look more into this company, you will see the things that they are attempting to offer here down the road and what their company is going about, right? So that's something that I'm looking at here. Roughly, they have 170 million cash currently. So I do believe down the road this can be a very good name, right? Despite where it's trading at right now, right? We can see based off last week we hit a high of 2140, right? Then now roughly trading right below that 200 EMA. And now just attempting to sort of see where can we sort of attempt to see a bottom, right? So that's what I'm watching for going into this week is we will be able to see a bottom being made here this week, right? So this is just something to keep an eye on, guys. Overall for me, I do like it. I do believe that going into this week, I would love to see us hold these nines um for Pew here and just sort of hold that and give us an opportunity to sort of load up here roughly below these 11s, roughly 10s would be ideally for me, and sort of just hold here and accumulate here overall long term. Now next one that we're going to go ahead and dive into is going to be Riot. As we all know, Riot is a Bitcoin mining company, right? So a couple things that do catch my attention is that based off here on this daily time frame, what can we see, right? We can see that roughly right around this 1450s, right? Has seemed to have some type of respected area, right? That being said, seeing some type of resistance here, and that's an area that we will definitely be watching here going into this week, and as well as wanting to see if we can hold above the 13s this week, right? So we can see based off here on the daily time frame, we are respecting that 5 EMA and respecting 20 EMA and trading above the 200 EMA as well, right? So just a nice little uptrend here. So question is, will we sort of see here a pre-earnings run up, right? We can see here based here we have earnings on the 31st of this month, right? So will we sort of see us attempt to go ahead and test this daily resistance area of roughly this 1450 60s and give us an opportunity to play this, right? Overall, as far as news wise, participation in the ERCOT 4 program, right? So that's something that they are sort of doing here as a power strategy to include economic curtailment and voluntary program and demand response program, right? So they do have a couple things that seem to be going their way, and despite reporting a net loss, right, they were able to show impressive quarterly revenue and strategic shift, right, into the AI infrastructure, which has seemed to become a very big thing for companies in the past couple weeks, months, whatever it may be, right? And having high demand in that iCloud space. So that's something that we're definitely looking at here. And with Bitcoin and everything going on, rising, the whole crypto bill, something to sort of watch there, guys. So initially for me, if we would get that break above roughly this 14, 50, 60 areas, initially I would love to see us test up into next into those 15/16 areas if given. Right now, that would give us an opportunity to be able to play up into this 1450 and that 15 and even up into those 16 calls if given for right here, guys. Even if we look at the daily time frame, that's something that we want to see is us hold roughly that 13, and if we do break above Friday's high, that would initially give us an entry for us to play up into that 1450 for some 1450 calls, right? Next one that we're going to go ahead and jump into is going to be IWNB. Is it INWB? No. INMB. Sorry. Yeah, that's the one. So this is going to be another one that we're looking at, or that I'm keeping an eye out here. So based off this daily time frame, we can see we have a big drop based over here right now. This big drop was based off some news that it had that day that created that big gap down, right? But overall, we can see a couple things here as well. Despite the price target being lowered to 7 from 20 or even up from 30s, right? As we can see here, price target lowered from 8 from 30. So that's a big significant drop, right? But despite that being said, right, we are still trading well below those smaller price targets that have been given, like 7, 8, right? So will we sort of be looking here to see us attempt to fill this gap up, right? Because if we do fill this gap up, we are still even, if we do fill that gap up, we are still underneath that related price targets that have been given for this, from being having a price target cut from 20s or 30s, right? So that's going to be something that we're going to definitely be watching this week. Initially for me, I would love to see us this hold above the twos, right? So if we're looking for anything for entry wise, initially anything under 280s in would be an ideal entry with a stop loss breaking below 2 here, right? So as we can see here, just sort of just creating some consolidation, right? So with that being said, what I'm looking for is I want to see buyers sort of just slowly start to buy here, or just have a big buy day and just sort of attempt to break above that 280, which is going to be an area that we're going to be looking at for us to break here above based off this company. Another thing is that the borrow rate has gone up to 63.43%, so that's going to be something that we're also going to be looking at for this company here, guys. So next one that we're gonna go ahead and jump into is going to be XYZ. As we all know, is the Block, right? Block is going to be a company that does offer banking services, right? So such as pay now, buy later, or what is it? Buy now, pay later. Um, so and that's something that a lot of people have been doing recently, as we can see, Square, Cash App. So a lot of people do use all these all these companies as well, right? I'm one of them. I do use Cash App. So here's something that we're gonna be watching for Block, right? We can see here daily time frame. We have a gap up, right? That needs to be filled. So question is, will we see a pre-earnings run up to fill that gap up, right? So that's something that we're definitely watching for here. So if we go ahead and see on the daily time frame, right, we're zooming in, what can we basically see? We can basically see how recently it has just been in a nice little uptrend, right, based off last earnings, right? As we can see here, last earnings created a nice little strong trend to the upside, right? As we can see there, ever since the last earnings, nice strong uptrend, right? Had a nice little gap up here. At some point we will need to see that filled. But overall, what's another thing that we can see? Higher highs, higher lows, higher highs, higher lows, higher highs, higher lows, right? Higher highs, higher lows. So we're stair stepping here higher, breaking above all these levels, and now broke above this crucial area of roughly that 71 area, right? Now, Friday after hours, look at that big pop. Now, that big pop is going to be based off the news of now them being added into the S&P 500, right? So that's a big thing for this company, right? Shows that they have been doing good things. It shows the company's on a good path, and as we can see, replaces Hess in the 500, right? So with that being said, that's why we got this big pop, right? With that big pop, what did that big pop create for Block here? It filled that gap up after hours, right? But here the question is, will it maintain that pop up here going into tomorrow's New York session, right? Into day trade, right? So of course that's going to be something that what we will be looking at. But because we did get that pop up, right, based off this 5-minute time frame, what are we seeing? We're gonna be watching. Will we be able to hold above these 78s, right? Or will we start to see a break above this 81.45, which is that after hours high of day, right? So that's something that we're going to be watching here for Block here. So just keep that in mind here, and as well as based off wanting to hold, it's going to be something that we want to see us hold. Roughly for me, I would initially love to see it hold above these 80s. For here to see a continuation here higher. But then again, based off this big pop up, I won't be surprised if sellers do push this back down here, right? into which is going to be roughly the 73 range right before that big pop, which is going to be, we can see high day on Friday was 73.25. So I won't be surprised if we see sellers push down into the 73, 74 area, and then next thing you know, we see buyers come in and buy it or buy it back up right during intraday trade. So that's something that we're just gonna be watching here going into not next week, going into tomorrow, Monday here, guys. So keep an eye on that. And one last thing that we're gonna be watching is initially is going to be RUM. We all know Rumble going to be one of those companies that do involve with the whole Trump family, right? So a couple things that I do like is how we are trading above this 200 EMA, right? We are trading above that 200 EMA, and initially, I would love to see us start to break above into this 10 area for RUM. Overall for news, basically just waiting to see for that bill, right? You can see here Trump signs the Genius Act bill into law. They've had a couple things going on. Rumble names Ian O'Donnell, VP for Rumble. So they've had a couple shifts in their whole board, right? You can see some nice deals. Rumble Moon Play sign deal for cryptocurrency. So with all this being said, right, that's something that I'm going to be looking at into this week. I want to see momentum here. Buyers come in and start to buy this up and give us the opportunity to break above 10 and sort of get a nice little pop, right? You can see how here had a nice little area, right? Just consolidated these 660s, held there nicely. Then here, after earnings, right? Had a nice little pop here, breaking above that 200 May. Hit a nice little resistance of 1083, right? So that's going to be another thing that we're going to be looking at to see if we do break into that 10 area here on Rumble going into this week, right? So that's just a couple names that I'm looking at going into this week, guys. So overall, hope you guys have a great green week. And remember, for those, if you guys want to see anything else mentioned here, always feel free. We are here with the Alpha community, so if you're not part of the family, join us, catch us our plays, and all of this here, guys. So let's have a great green week, guys, and blessed day, guys. Thank you guys for joining, and